Welcome to Prose and Cons, a podcast by writers for writers, brought to you by Precipice Fiction. Precipice Fiction would like to acknowledge the people of the Eora and Durag nations as the original custodians and storytellers of the land this podcast was created on.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Precipice Fiction podcast, Prose and Cons, because sometimes we feel like pros and sometimes we feel like convicts. This is a little bit different because it's kind of a crapshoot who we get on the podcast each week. Sometimes some of us are available, sometimes some of us aren't. We've got incredible time difference discrepancy. I'm in New Zealand, Alex is in Australia, Matan is in Israel, and Phoenix is in Chile right now. So today it's just Alex and I, and Alex, we're going to drill deep into each other's minds, I think, and just talk shit. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we just have conversations about writing anyway, right? It tends to just be what we talk about. So now we're going to have it with a recorder in our face.
Yeah, they say document, don't create, right? So that's exactly what we're doing. Well, it's like a Gary V like influencer thing. They're just like just record everything you do and then put it out there, and you can make it a course. Like, whatever.
Who's Gary V? Like a guru of content creation and creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's kind of a good idea, actually. I was thinking the other day, and we're already like meandering way away from writing, but that's fine. I suppose pre-warning to anyone listening / watching, this episode might be a bit of a train wreck. So good thing it's free.
We might just end up stammering at the mic and being like, I can't think of what to talk about and I don't know how to edit it.
I'm just more the editing. I'm just more concerned that we're going to get way off track. But anyway, so I've stopped myself from playing video games altogether at the moment, which fucking sucks because, among other things, Dwarf Fortress has come out. But I got to stay productive, and gaming takes up way too much time. But I've been thinking that if and when I do get back into it, I'm going to start streaming it because, like you were saying, like, why not?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm already playing these games. I can just play and talk. And if it doesn't go anywhere, then whatever.
There's nothing to lose. Yeah.
There is nothing to lose. That's right. So writing, I know you're writing a new book, actually. You've sent me, like a beta of it.
Yeah. So so this year has been a real, I don't know if the term has come to Jesus moment, but I liked that phrase. So I'm going to say that.
I do too. I just like using that more.
It's felt like a real come to Jesus moment because about a year ago, I think I left my band, which was like a big deal, like a big part of my life. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. And I sort of flailed around trying to do a few things, but I realized it's like, no, look, this is an opportunity to really drill down and start doing this, if not quite yet, well, I guess technically professionally, like just taking it seriously. And I've kind of looked into that, and it means like, hey, look, if you want to be doing this really seriously, you should probably be putting out a couple of books a year. Now, question is, what does a book mean?
Webster's Dictionary defines
defines a book as any compendium of Basically, I had made a decision to sort of take this seriously and be like, I want to be publishing a lot of books, and like they say theoretically you want to get 4 books out, and it's like, well, what's a book? Well, a book could be some short stories, it could be a novella. There's a really great horror novella by this guy called Keelan Patrick Burke. Which is very, very spooky and Lovecrafty, and it's only like 20,000 words. And people on TikTok, which is my barometer for taste right now, they just love this book. So I'm like, I can put out like a novella a year, and then maybe a full size book as well. So I thought, well, look, I can do that. I can put out some short stories. I can put out a novella, and I can probably get a book out. Maybe if not this year, then I can work to getting towards that. And that's already 3 things right there. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's just been sort of a call to arms to me to be like, hey, let's do this. Let's do this properly. And look, the financial rewards for that, because I do like to think of things from a hey, how can I make a living off this? They're commensurately pretty good. It gets pretty good after a while. So yeah, that's been my thought process.
Yeah, even if it's like a side income. I mean, it
starts that way. Yeah,
I mean, it's like a crappy reality of anyone who starts writing, like it will make a loss to begin with. And even if not a loss in money, a loss in time. And then you have to hope that eventually, after pushing the boulder up the hill far enough, you finally get over the crest and it's downhill.
Exactly.
But that's just how it is. And if you don't love what you do, then why are you doing it?
And that's business. You know, like I run a guitar school, and that actually doesn't take too long to do it. But yeah, 6 months, you don't make any money.
Well, but I guess with a lot of this is a business, but I think creative businesses are different in that you have to contend with the fact that there's a good chance it will never make you money. Whereas I think a lot of non-creative business, like the goal is to make money. Well, whereas I don't think that can be, even if it's the primary goal, it has to sit alongside the primary goal of, but I also just love creating this thing. Because as a business proposition, if you just were to pick a business out of the air and you didn't love writing, you wouldn't pick writing. You'd pick something that actually turns a profit, has a good chance of turning a profit sooner, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And there's that constant debate between art and commerce, and what is actually, that's maybe a slightly tangential point I'm making here, but I see what you're saying. I think one thing I've sort of learned from studying a lot of business practices and things is that you want to find a model. You want to find a way that it's worked, that someone has made it work in the past, and generally speaking, that's pretty repeatable.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of research into what makes that happen. And it seems like over the 4 to 5 year mark, there are people who are making maybe $2,000 a month after the first maybe nine months or something, which I don't think is necessarily possible in my niche. But there's there is.
Are you talking romance?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's staggering how big that is.
Romance is the big fish in the indie publishing market. But look, whoever you are, you can definitely carve out a little portion. It's just about getting better and honing your craft and all that stuff.
And learning the marketing side, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. That can't be underrated. So I'm looking at that stuff every day. I'm spending, I don't know if there's as much time writing as doing marketing, but certainly a big amount of time doing both, I think.
Well, yeah, I know you've got your whole TikTok thing, which sounds like it's really already paid dividends.
Yeah, it's doing all right. I mean, I got from my book went from 0 to 19 reviews within about a month. Which
you have 19 reviews on your book?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of them. It's really, really hard to track. This is the thing. It's really hard to track exactly where all of them come from. But it's a thing.
This is Golden Hour, right?
Golden Hour, that's right. Yeah,
Golden Hour on Amazon, available now. Series of short stories in the horror genre by A.R. Eldridge,
in paperback and ebook, and KDP actually. If you want to read it on KDP,
and while we're spamming, what's your TikTok handle?
Oh yeah, it's I still got the Eldridge horror. It might be A.R. Eldridge author. Yeah, A.R. Eldridge author. If you want to check it out, I just do I've done a bit of a reset recently. I just stopped doing TikTok stuff for a bit, just because it is a bit exhausting, and realistically, I just got out of a pattern because I was doing it daily, and then I was like, well, now you'll need to do it every couple of days, but just make sure it's really high quality. And I was like, oh, cool, that gives me an excuse to not do it, so I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting back onto it now. You got to know how your brain works.
You got to know how your brain works. That's true. Yeah. That is extremely true.
Neurodivergence. You got to figure that shit out, because otherwise it'll bite you in the bum.
Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got weird niches of their own thinking that they need to.
That's very true.
I mean, as I've said before, I don't know if I've written any. I have written a little bit this year, but very little. I got a book I want to finish, and especially you doing the TikTok thing and everything we're doing with the release of our anthology, The New Mythic, available now on Amazon, has made me realize that, I need a platform, and I need an online presence if I'm going to sell books. I don't know if it's necessary, but God, it's helpful.
Can I ask, Paddy? Because I just always love to dig into this. So I know you're not writing that right now, and I know you've made a conscious choice not to write.
Yeah, I can't split my attention, or I don't get anything done. Yeah,
right. It just, and I know that feeling. I do know that feeling. I don't think I experience that quite as much as you do, but You couldn't, for example, do I don't know, half an hour in the morning and just be like, right, that's locked off, and we're not going to think about that for the rest of the day, if it was at a consistent time?
I could, and maybe that makes sense. That's what a lot of people are saying. But just in my mind, there's other stuff I need to get done, and that's half an hour of that other thing that I won't do. I've just moved country, and I'm still trying to establish my life, and I'm actually trying to make a living as an article writer at the moment. Yeah, and I've written some articles, and that's great. But that's such it's so important that pursuing this, unfortunately right now, side thing of creative writing, just to me, has to take less precedence. I don't know, maybe I could carve out half an hour in the morning, but again, I just want to
From my experience, because look, I really do know what you're saying about splitting your attention. I really do understand. So I'm not just fobbing you off on that. But from my experience, like a lot of, certainly in my mind, when it's like I literally don't have time to do this. I got this other thing. It's sort of like if you can just like claw away that tiny amount of time and start just doing that consistently and just have it as this walled off thing and be like, look, after I've done this half an hour, let's say for example, half an hour, whatever you think you can afford time-wise, and you block that away and just go, look, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do what I can. Maybe it's crap. Maybe it's good. I don't know. But whatever, that's done now. I now need to go on to the next part of my day. I've found that I can do that for about an hour to 90 minutes in the morning. And like, once I've done that, I'm like, okay, cool. That's done. I can forget about that stuff for the day and sort of go forward with it now. I mean, that's my sort of thing. If I like just really make a point of partitioning it off and being like, okay, rest of day now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll work for everyone, but
no. Well, I just look at that back of my mind pressure of like, you got to start writing again. You got to start writing again, and I like to think that I will. I mean, I will. I know I will. I've got like a list of story ideas that's as tall as I am. I'm like, or already like got the tail ends of a short story I need to finish. I've got a book that's halfway done. I love this stuff. I don't know. I know what I got to do, and I think I know why I'm not doing it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, you've written, or you're writing Faces in the Slag Heap, right? Do you want to talk about this now? Is this something you're still keeping secret?
Yeah. No,
Faces
I do.
In the Slag Heap, which is sitting in my inbox as a beta read, and I haven't beta read it yet, but I will.
Well, that's it's not like you're the only one, so don't beat yourself up too much.
No.
So it's this novella. Like I said, I like to come at things from a top-down bird's eye commercial perspective and then go, how can I make this into a game so that my art is able to go into this and satisfy me creatively? It's like, here's the box.
No, go on.
It's sort of like, here's the box that I have to fit a thing into. So like, let's say that box was a pop song, I got to make a thing that I like and I'm going to fit it into that. So I've thought, okay, short story collection, novella, novel. So that second one is a novella. So that's written now. And I'm kind of like...
wait, this is the novella? Faces in the Slag Heap?
This is the novella. Faces in the Slag Heap, yeah. I was calling it Holes for the longest time, so when you say that, I'm like, what's that?
Holes?
But no, it's, just because you'll understand when you read it.
I quite like Holes, actually, as a name.
Yeah, it's not the worst. It's just, I mean, then you'd get confused with that classic, like early 2000s movie. But maybe not. Anyway.
I don't know. I've not heard of it.
But yeah, basically, it's about this... It's about this guy who's he's an academic. He's a gay guy. He's sort of like just finished up with a relationship, and he's very like locked down. It actually starts on the friend of him. Like, they're going towards this convention and on a bus, and the bus breaks down. It breaks down this small town. The town is actually based on Broken Hill, which me and Ali spent some time in. So
old mining town, right?
It's a mining town, yeah.
Which imagine has slag heaps around.
Yeah, well, one big slag heap, exactly. And it's going through that, and just weird shit starts to happen. And I've gotten to the end of it, and I don't know how well it works, because once I've written something, I don't really have. I just need an external perspective to be like, well, this is cool, but maybe you need to do this, or maybe this thing needs to happen.
Oh, so everyone does, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who can judge their own work effectively?
Exactly. So yeah, that's sort of what's going on now. And there's a bit of a perspective change halfway through, and there's I don't know, I think there's some good representation in it. There's a few different kinds of people. Yeah, I think it's good. I like it a lot. I think it could stand to be better, but I have to wait until I hear back to find out what it is.
This is also an alpha, right? Like, of course it can be better. That's what the process is about. Yeah. I'm looking forward to reading that.
And then just recently I finished this really short story about it's like a 4,000 word thing about a girl who it was based on this news. Actually, this was really interesting. It was this news article. And feel free to jump in. There was this news article it was in London. It happened about this girl who her boyfriend cheated on her with some other girl, and she was just teenagers, just kids. And the boyfriend actually came and I'm trying to think of exactly how to explain it. Basically, these girls came and took this other girl with the boyfriend, took her to a car park, and essentially burned her to death, which was really fucking intense. But I was
That
like,
sounds kind of familiar.
yeah.
Was this about a decade ago or so?
Yep.
Or was this
Yep.
recent?
Yeah. The girl's name is Deborah Kahn. Yeah.
I don't remember the name, but I remember, if not that story, then a story like it where the girls are quite young, right? They're like 15 or something?
Like 17-ish, something like that, yeah.
And a lot of the whole interest of the story was, are they too young to be considered, I don't want to use the word evil, but like vicious and like almost,
It's like
I don't know, to what extent,
yeah.
to what extent does being like 15 absolve you of doing something like that? Because that's incredibly disturbing.
Yeah. So I take that, and I didn't actually go the minor route too much in terms of like the moral culpability, but I took this other supernatural element to it that kind of comes in right at the end. You're like, okay, something's going on here. And it's sort of like, it's very ambiguous at the end, like what happens. But I think you get a sense of like, okay, this was, I don't know, it's strange. It's a strange story. And it's written like very, like someone's telling it, as opposed to like this right up close third person or first person thing that I'm used to. So yeah, that was interesting to write.
Did you at the beginning? I've been thinking a lot about the perspective you want to tell a story and what the best choice is, what different choices say for different mediums, and I mean just thinking an awful lot about that and how you can do it. Something I want to experiment with in an upcoming thing is, you know how in what's that Don Quixote? It's all told from the perspective of the like his assistant or his
Pancho?
Exactly.
Pancho, sorry. Yeah.
It's told from the perspective of the guy that follows the main character around.
Yeah, totally.
That sounds like a really interesting. Anyway, so why did you choose this perspective in this story?
Because I wanted some distance from the main action, and I wanted to get a bit of the sense of this person who's been sort of dragged into it and just sees this horrific thing unfolding, is like, oh God, I don't know how to deal with this.
Is it being told after the fact, or like?
Yeah, this is told after the fact. This is like, I pictured it as like it's never explicitly said, but like a scoop, like a magazine article thing that's told like years later, like girl burned and like friend recounts grisly details, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but I think you're right. Like this perspective thing just can entirely shift how something is told. So I wanted to do that just to get a little bit of distance from it, and this sense of like, I've been listening to a lot of this podcast called Knife Point Horror, which I really recommend for anyone who's into horror.
Okay, you sent me an episode around that, and the horror story was told like a director's commentary track on a DVD of a documentary of the horrific events that occurred, which is really so clever. Really an interesting way of doing it. Very clever.
Yeah. That guy's like a genius with format. Like he really knows. But they're all told first person. It's usually sometimes it's just as it happens, like past tense. Well, not as it happens, but like that close
audio drama style, right?
Yeah, but a lot of the time it's like it's just really removed, and he's just telling this story about it. The guy's name is Soren Narnia. The podcast is called Knife Point Horror. We'll put that in the description as well. But for me, this was just it felt like the next stage of like getting closer to it, because we all have that platonic ideal of what we're going to write, right? And this felt like, of all the things I'd listened to, this was the next thing that was like getting closer to what I really would like to start making. So that's been really exciting to listen to that. But he does a lot of that stuff, so I wanted to experiment with it a little bit. And that's I don't know. Just because of the voice, like you told from the 15, like a 17-year-old girl, it does feel a little amateurish having written it, but maybe that comes across. I'm not sure.
Oh, you're again the narrator in your story is 17?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's a hard headspace to inhabit, I think.
Yeah, like a 17-year-old girl in Kent, like, because it happened in England, and I was just like, oh, maybe go to do in Western Sydney, but I was like, no, it's got to have that grim British council estate vibe to it. So I tried to imbibe some of that on YouTube and put a bit of that into it.
You know, if nothing else, it's an interesting exercise in stretching yourself beyond what you'd normally try. I mean, my immediate 100%. Thought would be like, wow, I wouldn't I don't know if I'd attempt that for a full-length work, because I'm not switched on to how a 17-year-old girl thinks or talks, but try it, I guess, like you're doing, right? Try it, throw it at the wall, see if it sticks.
That's it. And that's the value of the short form. Like I kind of naturally, I think I naturally gravitate towards the short story novella format, that like 20, 30,000 word format. I think that's, I don't know, I think it's especially for horror, because it's this short, compact little thing. I think it's kind of almost the ideal form to tell that in, because it's really interesting. Actually, I made a TikTok video just today about this technique of this book that I'm reading, Stolen Tongues. And I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but
that's okay. That's what this episode is all about.
It's just about getting on the trampoline and flying off in some direction and breaking your ankle. You know?
That's right.
So I'm reading this book called Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell on Kindle. And it does this really interesting thing that having read that book, I've then seen it in other books. And it does this thing where it's a horror book, and it's like the first bit is like this man and woman go up to a cabin in the woods. It's, it's fairly trite trope. It's like, we're there. Oh, there's a snowstorm. We got locked in, all that sort of stuff. But it was so well plotted and well paced that it just kind of kept ratcheting the tension up. And I'm listening to it. So I'm reading it. I was actually reading. I'm used to listening on audiobook. I was reading it, and I was just kind of like, there's no way you can maintain this level of tension for the whole book. This is like an 85,000 word book, like 300 pages of book. And it goes through it, and it just gets more intense and more tense and more tense. And then at some point it hits this flashpoint where you're like, okay. And then the tension gets dialed way back down, and it starts into this second cycle, this like slow burn thing. And I'm like, I've seen that before. That happened in Dracula, because you got the whole, I don't know if have you read Dracula?
No.
Paddy? Nope. It's basically, there's just a bunch of diary entries and, about this guy who goes into a castle, and he's like, this castle's spooky. The guy's spooky. This is all, this is a little bit weird. And then it becomes more and more terrifying until it gets to this point where it's like, okay, I'm probably going to die here. And then it stops and it goes to this other thing. And then the rest of the novel is set there. So it's
is it halfway through that it stops, or towards the end?
No. It's only within about 20%, sometimes even 10%. Like just this first little blast of like, oh wow, like almost a short story unto itself, and then it goes into the full length work. And I'm like, that's a really fascinating technique for writing horror. And I think it is horror specific.
I think so. Although that whole rising, falling tension, I mean, obviously you've got little rises and falls in tension, but it's almost like a fractal. Like you zoom out, and that's part of a larger rise and fall. I mean, I'm thinking of the intro to any fantasy novel you can name. They've always got this little interlude where it's its own little rising tension, and then it falls, and then they begin the real story. I mean, it sounds like it's almost, do you know what I'm talking about? That fantasy books always have that little like single half chapter prologue before the story itself.
Well, I'm not familiar with that personally, because I don't read a lot of fantasy, but I think that's the same thing. I mean,
it sounds like there's just a longer version of that.
Yeah. With horror, I think maybe it's extended a bit, or there's this heightened, it's almost like there's this first short story that happens at the beginning of the book, and then it's like, okay, now we're into the real book.
And that kind of is what serves to establish the setup and the world and stuff like that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or at least the theme, or the spooky baddie sort of thing. Like, I'm trying to think of another, I'm sure plenty more books do it, but like I can't really summon anymore right now. It is one technique, but it sounds very similar to what you're saying. Like there's this one mini drama, and then it's like, okay, that happened. Then we go into the greater plot.
I've not read it, or really any Stephen King, except that one short story you sent me. But doesn't it? I mean, and maybe it's not the same thing, but there's the whole thing where they're kids and then they come back again as adults. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's the first 20% and then the last 80%, but it's the same kind of thing, right? You're telling the pre-story, then you're telling the post-story.
Well, that's actually a really fascinating way to, and that's another way that you can structure a book. By the way, I think I'm going to start putting a Stephen King counter into the podcast, just because I don't think we've done a single podcast without mentioning him yet, and that's mainly my fault. But like, I love that this is just an ongoing theme. So
let's put it in the description. Let's keep the Stephen King counter. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to call that one because I was Anyway,
who can be asked going back and like listening to the previous episodes and getting the references? We're not going to do that.
It's fine.
Okay. Okay. What happens if we have multiple references per episode? Do we count each reference?
Oh yeah. No, that's the thing. So how many references per episode? So I guess technically that would be 2, because I brought it up intentionally. But anyway, but yeah, the way he has structured that those two narratives is that's more like it goes all the way, like there's one timeline that's going there and then there's a separate parallel timeline that's going there, and they kind of keep switching the whole time. And because there's like 7 characters, you got like young Bill, old Bill, I can't remember the character's name, but young, like the 2 versions each. So there's like 14 perspectives in this book.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I could see that being, if not really well written, like quite confusing and disorienting for the reader.
Yeah. It is quite well written, but you're always aware of who it is and what iteration of it is. You know, like it's made quite clear. But I can see, like this is a guy who's written for a while and it's like, look, I want to play around with the format of this, the timeline of this. So no, it's quite manageable. Also, budding authors listening, bear in mind, the more characters you write, the more POV characters you write, the longer your book will be. Just bear that in mind. If you have one character, you can make it quite short. If you have more than one, it starts getting really long. You know?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever really tried anything other than with one POV character. And I will, but
I can't really do it. Actually,
you did it when I read Challenger of yours. You have 4 POV characters?
POVs. Yeah, that's what I mean. I can't write.
You're saying you can't write a single? Yeah, but I think you have a better handle of how to write characters than I do. I don't consider myself a particularly good character writer or dialogue writer. So me limiting it.
I think your dialogue's pretty good. It's like I don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't come naturally or easily to me. And when I think of stories, I don't think of them in terms of human dynamics and characters. I think of them in terms of big weird concepts that I want to express through the book.
But that's another lens, you know.
It is. Yeah, it's not illegitimate. It's just that's why I would never immediately think about having multiple character perspectives in a story, because it's not my strength. It's not what I'm particularly interested in, at least writing.
Fair enough. But I mean, you think of the book you'll write, hang on. Sovereignty. Like that's got a pretty strong character voice. You know exactly who this guy is. He's a working class guy. He's like a blue collar guy. He's got like the nice picket fence, works at a factory. He's got his friends who also work at the factory. Some of them kind of weird, some of them kind of jerk. Like, you know who this guy is. You've built up with these cues within the world. Like even him listening to him listening to the radio and like listening to that like pseudo Republican station, it immediately clues you into this whole field of where this. Okay, so there's the
no. Sorry, don't worry. I know exactly what you mean. But continue. Okay. Continue. I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah. Okay. But like little subtle cues like that I think you actually do more naturally than you realize.
Possibly.
They cue us into a whole different aspect of the character, like where we're suddenly like, oh, okay, this guy is a conservative. He's conservative based, and that little piece of knowledge itself has this domino effect that tips us off about a whole lot of other things, at least theoretically. And then
that's the idea. That's the idea.
So I don't know. I just because we're not going into his inner thoughts and thinking of his, understanding of every single other character and his relation to them, I don't think that necessarily needs, that I don't think that precludes having shitty characters, like I don't know. I always found the characters in your book to be quite well written.
I appreciate
terribly flat.
But it's also one character that I'm drilling into. It's one character and extrapolating that, which I find a lot easier than juggling a whole cast of characters that each needs to be equally as rich.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's a good point, because I don't know necessarily that each character does need to be as rich. Each POV character necessarily, because you might have Stephen King does this all the. That's 2. No, 3 technically. He does this all the time, like where he'll just have this, and it's one of my favorite things he does. Like he'll just have a chapter of like in Salem's Lot. There's this chapter of this guy who's like I think he's a domestic abuser, and he like drinks a lot, and he's like, like we just have this one chapter where he's just being a real jerk to his wife and the kid as well, like his baby, and you just get a sense of who he is, and he's not a nice person. And he's not a very complex person, but he is a realistic person. He's believable. You're like, I can see where this guy comes from, but it's not conveyed in a lot of detail.
Just give it an impression of a real and interesting person, I guess.
Yeah. And you can convey a lot with not a lot. Just little details can just set it up. I think that's how I think of it. Anyway.
That's why I love taking. I mean, like we've all met some really interesting, weird characters in our lives. Like you go to a party and like, that guy's a character. That person is a character. I love taking aspects of real people that I've met. And you don't copy them wholesale, obviously, because that's a real person. You don't want to do that. And threading that in, because often people's weird eccentricities are far more interesting than something you maybe would come up with yourself. Reality being weirder than fiction. And sometimes all the more believable.
That's character, I think. Like, I think what you've picked up there is what's so fascinating to me about character. Like, truth is stranger than fiction, for sure. We've all got that one person who you're like, oh man, you're a jerk, but you would make such a great character. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what I love about. That's what I find interesting about character. The interpersonal dynamics of like how these two beings come and butt heads and like how they manage that. I'm already thinking of a sequel to Dawn House where it's going to be
really. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You know what I said about like having this like commercial brain going in the background. Like the best way to make money as an author is to do sequelization. Now that doesn't really gel very well with what I want to do, but if I can just take one character and insert them into another separate concept and have that related, and I know the character I'll do it with, and I actually know like the let's say Dawn House is the middle, there'd be a prequel, and then there'll also be a sequel, and I know where that one guy fits into all those things, and I can write around that. So yeah. But yeah, the one I'll do before that, the prequel, will like it's just all going to be about just these two guys just butting heads. Like, that'll be the whole thing.
Have you finished Dawn House? I actually don't know that. I didn't know that you'd finished the book.
Finished is a relative term.
Okay.
No, it's not. It needs to be, parts of it need to be rewritten. Most of it needs to be redrafted.
Yeah.
But I just need to pull my finger out and do that. I think I've had plenty of help, plenty of editorial help, enough.
You're doing it with James, right? James of this group.
Yeah.
Anyone listening?
Yeah, he gave me a really, really in-depth analysis of it. It was like 12,000 words or something. It's crazy.
Oh my God.
It was great. Like he was just like, this is great, but you also need to change this and maybe try this and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that just needs to get done, and I'll do that at some point once I put this color out. I think
it's always hard when you've got a thing that's so close to finish. That's, to me, the hardest point, is trying to just push it out the door. I get so much exhaustion. Well, sometimes you look at the like Caravaggio, amazing painter, and you look at like the detail in the center. It's like really great, and as you look toward the edges of the painting, it's just kind of which is fine. Like painting could be just finished enough if the main details are there.
Well, funnily enough, that's how the human eye works. Your locus of paying attention is really small, like tiny. Like what I'm looking at my face on the screen right now, and what I can see of your face, to me, just looks like a bit of a blur. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not focusing on that. Like, no, that's actually what's happening. Your face is literally a blur because my brain is focusing on that. So, and I think maybe that could be a good metaphor. Like maybe if you want to do this really intense portrait of this one person or this one scene or this one situation, maybe the other stuff doesn't have to be that filled in, Like,
yeah.
That's why I struggle with fantasy, man, because I'm like, I don't care about the world. I just want to hear why. I just want to hear why this one elf wants to go on this adventure and get this one magic ring. Like that's all. I just want to know why he's doing the thing. I don't care about the language. It's just this is me. It's not. I'm not saying that stuff isn't valid. It's just me.
You're not going to be reading the Silmarillion anytime soon?
I will. I'll do it at some point, but I got a lot of other stuff to get through first.
Yeah,
there's value in that stuff as well. And I am just as guilty as a Dark Souls Wikipedia, like troll as anyone else. But this is a little column A, a little column B. But what do you I don't know. What do you have plans to work on? What's the next thing you?
Well, I've got Sovereignty, which is it's at the back of my mind, and that's the story. Yeah, fucking man crab. Sovereignty.
I really want to know about man crab, man.
Yeah, I know. I've titillated it and teased it so much. It's appalling. I don't know. It's the kind of thing that I don't know who I want to share it with, because you'll know when you read it. Like there's some parts that are very like, no, Paddy, I don't know why you'd write that.
Is it done?
It's pretty much done. It's pretty much done. Yeah.
Dude,
I originally, maybe I'll smash out some more of it today. I originally tried to write it for a submission to an online magazine that takes horror articles, and I was so fucking close to getting in it on time, and then I just ran out of time because other stuff came up.
Okay.
So now the impetus to work on it's gone. Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do. But like, I don't know. Here's the thing. I keep coming back to this, like like how to. I don't want to say work ethic because it's not really fair. It's more like
work philosophy, more like, right?
Work philosophy. That's a better way of thinking of it. Yeah, of like I have this thing. I have this thing where when I start a story, I'll go like, okay, you've gotten a certain amount of this story. There's a cooling off period. Like if you write 1,000 words, you're like, this is piss. I don't want to do this. This sucks. I'll let myself out off the hook and be like, okay, fine. You don't have to write it. That's fine. I'll still keep it. I'll keep the story somewhere because I might want to use it at some point.
Yep.
But once it gets past a certain threshold, I'm like, okay, this has to be finished at some point. Now with a novel, I'll say I've got maybe 3 unfinished novels that are just sitting in there and waiting to be written. Yeah. There's like quite a few of them. You're talking like 20, 30, maybe 40,000 words for a few of them. So I'm like, you have to come back and do these. And I'm like, okay. But for a short story, for example, I have this rule where I'm like, this has to be done. You need to finish this. Even if it's crap, you need to have this reach some kind of conclusion. So at least then you've got the perspective to go back and do it. There was this one novella I wrote recently, which I was really keen on. It was really exciting. It was about like this, did you hear about the Chinese sinkhole they discovered recently where it's like this big... Yeah. So
sinkhole was massive.
That's just...
I remember you saying you wanted to write something around that.
And I did.
Okay.
And it was really good for a while. And then I got to the end of it and I was like, oh, this is just a bad version of Aliens. And I just didn't know how to do it. But I finished it and I was like, cool. All right, we can put that aside now. Don't beat yourself up about not having done it. Come back to it at some point, reread it, and see if it's something you can do. But my thing which is a very roundabout way of saying like, once I start a short story, I'm like, okay, this needs to get done before anything else happens. Because the barrier to entry is so low. It's just like, just get it done. Yeah. And then it's like you can clear your plate and be like, okay, well, that might not have been great, or it might not have been exactly what I wanted, or maybe I can make it better. But that's the way I always approach it anyway. I'm just like, I'll get this done, then I can go on to this other thing that I really want to do.
Yeah. It kind of dovetails into something else I've been thinking about a lot lately, is what happens if you've got a book and it's finished and it's probably not great, but it's a finished book. Do you release that and have that sit in your back catalog alongside your other stuff? Or do you not release it or release it under a pen name because you think it could tarnish what your reputation? Let's say someone reads your really good book and they love it. And then that's great. I want to read more by this author. And then they find your C grade book. And that puts them off. Is that worth it? Is it worth it to have those kind of duds in your back catalog?
That's a really good question, and I think that depends where you see yourself sitting in terms of there's this constant war between commerce and art, or marketing and art, and it's kind of like, well, if I put the book out, there's more likelihood of people reading it and people seeing it, and that will elevate my status. Because the biggest problem initially is like visibility. Okay, no one knows who anyone is. Like no one knows who I am. I've got a few people on TikTok who knows who I am. Who knows who I am? They knows who I am. Knows who I is. Sorry. And then there's you guys, and there's my friends and family. That's really it. Like no one knows who I am. So the question is, I think about this all the time. Actually, the question is, where do you want to set the threshold of like discoverability versus quality? Because that's where it gets really tricky, because the more you write, the better you'll get. But if you write something else and go, well, no, I'm not going to publish that. I'm just going to write something else and do it. It'll probably be better, right? So you can put that up. But
you can play that game forever. You could play that game forever. It will always be better.
At what point is it good enough? Like, here's my thing. Like, if you set a bar at one level, you can be like, okay, cool. This is where I want this. And I think that bar should be fairly low, because not that many people are going to read it, So then at that point, you try and do something better, and you do something better, and then that becomes the bar. And look, worst case scenario, you can take this lesser good thing, which is helping with discoverability and helping with back catalog, and you can take it off. You can get rid of it. And then there's some people that might have it, maybe someone put it onto the internet and it's piratable. Like maybe
you release it as a collection of B-sides for one low price. Like, hey, read my trash.
This is some dumb stuff I did. Yeah. This is my trunk novel. Like, like people, I think people understand. I think people understand that in the words of Les Claypool, they can't all be zingers. You know what I mean?
I love that quote so
We
much.
can't all be singers.
I was thinking of another music quote, actually. They Might Be Giants. You know They Might Be Giants, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of another band that has such a huge back catalogue. They have an enormous number of songs, thousands and thousands, and a lot of them, in my opinion, aren't very good. But that's actually fine, because to me, going through their back catalogue and finding the ones that are actually really great is kind of half the fun. And when you do have like a million songs, then 1,000 of them are going to be really good. Maybe it's different for authors, because if you pick up a book that's not great, that's a much bigger time commitment than just
depending on the book.
Yeah,
depending on the book.
You know. Yeah.
I mean, what's the? It's a Wayne Gretzky quote, like who's some hockey guy, whatever.
How do you know a hockey guy?
Because I read a lot of self-help, man. I read a lot of self-help.
Okay.
And I have read a lot of self-help.
Okay.
It's like you miss every shot you don't take. You miss every single shot you don't take.
Mm-hmm.
This, I think this has been the biggest thing that's helped me. If you put something out into the world, is the world better off for that being there in its prepubescent warts and all form? Is it better off for that, or would the world be better for it not being there? And almost inevitably, I think the answer is it is better off. It is better that this exists than it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is really where the rubber meets the road.
True. I mean, look, can it be better? Of course it can be better. It can always be better. There is never a point where it can't be better. That's why Patrick Rothfuss took, 15 years to release Name of the Wound. It can always be better. The question you have to ask yourself is, at what point does that become diminishing returns? Is it 87? Is it 88? Is it 96? Where do you sit on that spectrum? Yeah, very true. Of course, the other thing is as well, we're all the beginning of our journey and we're all basically unknown. So really to not release something is, hand-wringing about like, oh, will this damage some future catalog I have? That's very much a future self problem. Like you need to have a catalog before that's even, and you could be, if you've written an amazing book and no one knows who you are and it never gets read, then you may as well not have written the book.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for having just written the book and some people, plenty of people just want to write a book, and I think that's really valid as well.
But I think we all aspire to be actual published authors that are known and making some kind of money for our books. So, and it's something kind of, I don't know, there's something kind of quite, is frightening the right word? I'm going to kind of use the word frightening about the idea of writing something that's a really great book and then no one ever reads it. That to me there's something that I dread about that.
Yes.
It's the what could have been, the what could have been of not writing the book is pretty intense, but the what could have been of you write the book and it's really good and no one ever reads it, that's even more vivid to me.
Yeah. And look, there's always the school of thought that will say like, hey, we'll build it and they'll come, and like if you make something really good, people will find it and that's fine, and then maybe that's true. Yeah,
but I've got my doubts about that, especially in the 21st century with oversaturated markets. It
seems like the best course of I always like compare this to music. That's just where I cut my teeth in artistic endeavors, and that's just what makes sense. So it seems to me that the bands that make it are these shitty little like punk bands that start when they can only play 3 chords, and they just do that, and like everyone sees them there, you suck, and they're like, yeah, we know we suck, and they do that for like 5 years, and by the time they've got people that actually are invested in them, they've spent that time building their skills. So their audience has grown as their skill set has grown. Like, and I've tried doing the opposite, where you just, no, it just needs to be better and better and better. And then like, you make it to a certain point, and then, then you'll have this audience there and you go, ta-da, it's done. And then crickets, So I think if you can sort of subsume your ego a little bit and just be like, look, maybe this isn't the greatest work I'll do. Maybe it's kind of crappy, but put that out anyway. I guarantee you there's someone who will read it. I guarantee you. I don't know if you've seen a lot of self-pub stuff in there, but out there, but like someone will read it. Someone will read it and someone will like it.
Boy, have I. Like it. So I've been doing all the category research for the new Mythic, which is the anthology we're releasing on Amazon right now. Anyway, so I'm seeing like a lot of it's not even the basement of Amazon, just all these self-published authors that are so small, and some of the books look so rinky-dink. Yeah. They've got substantial readerships. They've got a lot of people, like every third person is like, look, the prose in this is really bad, the characters are terrible. But then 2 out of 3 people like, this was great. This was exactly the book for me. Like this, this was exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I can only assume that a lot of these people probably aren't the best writers in the world, but they're hitting a niche and they're getting out there. Yeah. And when I look at their back catalog, they've got a lot of books.
Yeah.
So maybe build it and they will come, possibly, but keep building it. and build another one and build another one and build another one. And that's when you'll start to get the momentum and get attention.
It's about iteration, you know. I come from a small business, like almost a startup kind of. I don't want to say startup because it's more like a franchise thing, but like
such a gross buzzword.
Whatever. But it's like, you know, you iterate, you do something and it's not great and you put it out and then you get a response and then you use that response and you go, okay, cool. How can I make this next version better? And then you do it again and it's this cycle. It's a virtuous cycle. And I think a lot of first-time authors just get caught in that the terror of like, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. It doesn't, you know, whereas like have you, it's the perfect example of not the Fora effect. What is it? Oh,
the Fora.
Do you know the one I'm talking about?
The Fora effect?
I'm so annoyed that I can't think.
Just what is the effect anyway? We can put it in the show notes. It's all show notable.
The effect is there's this spectrum, right? On the low end of the spectrum are people who are like who have very little skill and knowledge about an area. Okay, and they go, oh, this is easy. I can do this, right?
Like the Dunning-Kruger effect.
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
The Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah,
Sorry,
of course.
Yeah.
The less you know, the more you overestimate your knowledge of the thing.
It's the perfect example of this. Exactly. And then as you get better and your readership increases and stuff, you go like, wow, that's actually a lot that I don't know. But I've come this far and people like it. So, you know, I guess I'll keep going.
Making the Dunning-Kruger effect work for you.
Yeah.
How to use your ignorance to push yourself into a position that you should never have been able to get to if there was any justice in the universe.
And yet here you are. Yeah. It just seems to be the hustlers that do it, you know, like it's just.
Yeah.
Which is not me saying that you should put out crap. At least you shouldn't continue to put out crap, okay? I don't think anything I put out is crap. I think it's pretty good, frankly.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect. And I don't know if it'll ever be perfect. But do yourself a favor and look up the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Let's segue this. Okay. We'll do everything in ass backward order. What are you reading at the moment?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm...
This is experimenting with the format.
Yeah, exactly. We're taking it to strange new places.
Yeah.
The first thing that I am reading is I'm listening to a lot of Soren Narnia's Knife Point horror podcast, which I just cannot recommend highly enough. I don't know who here is into horror and would want to read that, but hopefully a few of you go listen to that right now. It's just so great. I'd suggest starting with... D&K was really good. That's the one I sent you, Paddy.
So, you know, as much as I really enjoyed the format of D&K, I was left kind of scratching my head at the end. Maybe it kind of went over my head a little bit, and I was like doing housework the whole time as well. Yeah. But I didn't ever get the sense of like what the story was kind of about. There was no like punchline for me. It just always stayed mysterious and vague and ambiguous. And I sometimes love that, but I never felt like I got a payoff in the story.
It's just about this creature that, like, I don't know. I think it was like just circling the drain of this event.
It was definitely circling the drain, but I didn't dislike it. But it left me thinking, like, oh, that's it. Like, should I go back and listen to that? Was there some kind of like reference or something that would have made all this come together into a really tight story?
I don't know. I think the ambiguity is part of his thing. Like, I think that's part of what it's about, and that's sort of what I've tried to incorporate into some of my stuff. It's like, hey, all the loose ends don't necessarily have to tie up. You know,
and I like that as a philosophy often in writing, but something about D&K didn't do it for me, even if the format was actually really interesting.
Yeah,
and again, that's the it being done as like a DVD director's commentary of a documentary of a horror event. That was fascinating.
Yeah. I'd recommend Pride. That's a little more.
Pride. Okay.
That's a little more like, oh, okay, here's what happened. That's probably my favorite so far. What I've read of his. That one's really good.
Is it one guy writing this stuff?
One guy writing it, recording it. He gets actors in, but just his voice is very soothing. It's a very soothing voice.
Oh, it's always his voice as well.
Yeah, it's just always him talking like this, and then this thing happened. I was trying to do something, and then
that's exactly what he sounds like. Actually, that's a very good impression.
Thank you. So the other thing I've been reading is Stolen Tongues, which is just the quintessential, like, well-paced horror novel. It's just it takes a lot for me to get up in the middle of the night and be like, but this does it. This is a scary book. It's like a scary book, which is what I really appreciate. And then the last thing I'm listening to is Warrior Cats, because
don't know what that is.
It's just. I wish Ali was here for that, because she would just lose her shit. It's like a YA series written by a collection of authors, and you can tell these people have been writing for a while, and they're like, look, let's just do a fun thing about a tribe of cats who like go out and fight another tribe of cats, and like they're not humanized at all. They're just like cats doing cat stuff. But it's just very well paced. It's like quite well written. The characters are reasonably well fleshed out, and it's just fun. It's just a fun sort of book. It's just a good like adventure. You can tell it borrows a lot from like that Jack London style of like White Fang, and it's just like, hey, what if we just did this, but they were just like a little more anthropomorphized, just a little bit.
Okay, cool.
What about you?
I've been reading Bring Up the Bodies, which is the sequel to Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. It's about Thomas Cromwell and Henry VIII. You know, it is really good, but it's not as good as the first book, I think. I'm not that far through it, but what's interesting, I think maybe this is probably what happens with a lot of series, right? An author spends a long time crafting a really good first book because they don't have any pressure because no one's looking for a sequel. And then they write it, and then it's lauded as amazing. And then the publisher says, hey, we want the sequel. We want it by now.
Yeah.
So there's typos in it. Like,
really?
I feel like I'm seeing some missing words. And
hang on though, that's going through so many edit draft stages, and like
it could be her using natural language. Like sometimes people talk and they leave a word out, but sometimes I'm reading like a piece of dialogue and it feels like there's a missing word. And to me, it actually just feels like maybe that word was missed. And again, maybe it's natural dialogue and she's going for that really realistic thing. But then there's other things where, sometimes you're reading a paragraph and there's a word, let's say, it's the word ponderous in this context. Yeah. And the next paragraph, the word ponderous comes up again. And it really stands out because they just used it.
Yeah.
And again, maybe this is...
No, that bugs the shit out of me. That bugs the absolute hell out of me.
Oh, nothing draws attention to the writing itself in a negative way like that. And again, maybe she's doing it in some kind of very clever way that's just going over my head, but feels like someone should have picked up that and said, hey, the word ponderous has happened here. The writing is beginning to feel a little ponderous.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a little bit rushed. To be honest, I really struggled reading Wolf Hall.
You mentioned. I get it. I definitely get it.
It's beautifully written, and but it was just too dense for me. It was honestly just too dense. There was just too much.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a detriment to the quality of the book itself. I just think it just wasn't for me. But
it's totally not for everyone.
I struggled with it. It was just a lot going on there in terms of the characters and the history and everything. I was listening to it as an audiobook. I had a crack at it twice. I read through the first, the prologue, and the prologue was really good. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. Yeah. And I kept reading it, and I fell off twice. So maybe one day I'll go back to it. But
as Barry Shitpeas says, I can't tell if it's boring because it's good or it's boring because it's actually boring.
Yes. Oh God, I love that.
Yeah. Bring Up the Body is still very, very good. But you can't help but compare it to the one that came before.
What about plot wise and structure wise? Does this hold up like that, or it's purely a prose thing?
No, it's purely a prose thing. And I was reading it because the prose is crack to me. It's just as a prose person, the prose in Wolf Hall and her writing is it's absolutely sublime. So my only criticism is just some very tiny things with the prose, but really it's very nitpicky.
I'll tell you what, if you're into prose...
I am so into prose.
I am listening to an audiobook version right now of Beyond Good and Evil by, by Nietzsche. I'm reading that right now, and honestly, I don't even understand all the things that he says, but it's so funny. It's so funny. He's such a funny guy. And I don't know if maybe that's the translation. It's the sort of thing you have to listen to one chapter of it and then just put it down and be like, whoa. Yeah. Okay, so for example, there's one part, and I'll let you get back to your reading list.
You're gonna let me finish?
I'm gonna let you finish. But there's this one bit where he's just talking about saints and how saints, the only people that the really rich and powerful respect are the saints because they can't conceive of how this person. So you killed yourself? What? It's this level of prestige that they can't even fathom. So
you can't marry into it. You can't buy into it. It's something you can never attain, and therefore it's on a pedestal, right?
What's the catch? Why you
Yeah.
So he's just talking about the befuddlement of these rich people of how do you outpowered me? What do you do? It's very funny and it's just very strange.
Yeah. I read Thus Spoke Zarathustra. That's or Zarathustra? Zarathustra? Yeah, it's the only Nietzsche, again, I'm butchering this name, but it's the only one I've ever read. And same, like, I feel like I didn't understand 80% of what I was reading, but it was captivating.
Yeah.
It's absolutely captivating.
You can see where Jordan Peterson gets a lot of it from.
Does he speak in like vague, long-winded, pseudo-religious metaphors?
If you read a bit of Maps of Meaning, it's a lot of that. Like, it's very captivating. Right. Not sure what it's saying.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think there is some legitimate like gems in there. You just have to. But yeah, the prose is just so engaging. Like the guy just wrote really well.
Yeah, it strikes me as almost like the holy book of a religion that never was. And I do feel like, at least in Thusberg Zarathustra, he was almost copying a biblical style. But yeah, it feels like exactly that. If there was a parallel universe that had some bizarre religion in it that never quite made it over to our universe, and Thusberg Zarathustra would be an example of one of the holy books.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You should read that.
That's very, very intriguing. And I just bought House of Leaves, which I'm really, really looking forward to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I can't say anything. I can't read it for you.
No, actually, don't say anything. No, I want to know zero about just going into it.
Just read it. Just all I'll say is carve out a good amount of time to read it. Maybe light a candle or something. Just give yourself a couple of hours to get into it. You know, you've got a physical copy, right?
Oh yeah, bought the paper.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough about that book. It's just so fucking weird.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
I want to see how strange conventions with format can get. How inventive. Yeah. But it's very unconventional in what it does with the format of book, right? Isn't that, without giving too much away?
Yeah. No. You're right. It does. It's not all like that, but even the. I mean, I don't know what I can say without giving it away.
Maybe nothing. Maybe let's lean toward nothing. I really don't want to know anything about it going on. All right. There's a house, spooky. There's leaves of, that's it.
Yeah, you should read it. Just carve out some time and read it. I really want to hear what you think about it. Like, if you can, just try and read the whole thing in as little time as you can. Just blitz through it.
You know what we should do? Once I finish it, we should do another one of these, but we talk about House of Leaves.
Hell yeah.
Put massive spoiler warnings, and then it's just
absolutely
just getting deep.
No, I would really like that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. Since we're back to horror again, which we inevitably do because I fucking dominate the conversation.
That's all right.
I feel like, I don't know. I remember reading a review of an album by Queens of the Stone Age where the guy, and he rated this album very highly. He said, "Don't worry, I'm coming back."
That's okay. Do I look like you're not?
You looked a little confused, like, where are you going with this, Alex?
Sorry.
He said, "This is music by people who have listened to too much music." Right? And I'm like, that's exactly what that record is. And it is all the better for it. So
Quentin Tarantino is movies made by a guy that's seen too many movies.
Yeah. It's like post movie, you know? It's like the meta movie. You know,
totally.
I'm always so excited to read and talk about something that shatters those conventions, or that these are the two things I like, right?
You only like two, and this is them.
Yeah, that's it. This is all I like.
Yeah.
In any media, in video games, in music, in books, whatever. But like, you either shatter a convention and you're just really iconoclastic and like, this is totally different, and you know, like, you've never seen anything like this before, and this is amazing, and that's really cool. And it's usually a little raw because obviously it's the first time you're doing it. It's a bit experimental. That's super exciting to me. The other version of that's really cool is just the platonic ideal of that one thing. And you might say that would be like The Shining. I think that's 4 references. Just this book that is just so far into what it is, that is the absolute, like, it is the most of that can be, and it almost reinvigorates itself by the integrity of its own format, you know? So I don't know, I think House of Leaves is definitely the former of that. And then the book I'm reading now, Stolen Tongues, feels like the latter of that. So
but
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Do you mean intensity rather than integrity?
No, I mean integrity. I mean that it's so much of what it is that it's just that it transcends its tropiness. That's kind of what I mean. It's like you've done this so well that it almost doesn't matter that I've seen all these things before, because you've just nailed it.
That to me is really good fantasy. That to me is like, amazing fantasy doesn't need to bend conventions of the genre. It can just be a really, really good example of what it is.
Yeah. I always think of Name of the Wind, like, because that does a bit of both. Like that kind of it is just amazingly.
Does it? It's an incredible book, absolutely incredible. But does it bend conventions of fantasy? I don't know that it does. I think it's pretty standard fantasy fare.
I think the storytelling narrative part. Maybe I just haven't read enough fantasy. That might be true, but I think the storytelling narrative keeps coming back to the bar is pretty unique. You know?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. But no, I hear you. I still think it's not. I still think it's sitting pretty comfortably within the conventions of the genre. But
that's probably just my ignorance of the genre itself.
Well, we need Ali here. She's the massive fantasy nerd of the group.
Yeah.
Matan, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have. It's funny how all our little things overlap. Like you're into sci-fi and fantasy, and I'm into horror and sci-fi. Ali's into YA and fantasy. Matan's into horror and fantasy. Like it's. There's a good overlap. Yeah.
There is a very good overlap. Well, this is coming in at over an hour, and I'm going to have to edit this bad boy. So what say we wrap it up here for this is going well. This is going well for a one-on-one experimental format.
I think so. No, I think we've just been talking shit and, it was fun,
It was fun. This has been good.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it as well, and hopefully you will as well, dear listener. Hopefully you will as well. Well, this has been Alex and Paddy and Alex in a very special episode of Pros and Cons, the Precipice Fiction podcast. And we will see you all for a normal episode, probably next week. Enjoy. Have a great week. We love you all. Mwah. Mwah.
See you guys. Take it easy. Bye.
Take it easy. Goodbye.
You're listening to Pros and Cons, the Precipice Fiction podcast.